Hare Krishna. Dear devotees, thank you for coming to today's evening class, where we're going to be discussing a book, What is the Difficulty? By Shrutakirti Prabhu. This is the book here. So just to let me just offer my respects to the spiritual master and all of the devotees. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desatarine Pancha Kalpatrubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So today's we starting the series on what is the difficulty. Intimate moments in the personal service of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Over 160 meditations from the private journal of Shrutakirti Das. So before we get into the book, the main content of the book, I think it's just nice to consider a little bit about the author, Shrutakirti Prabhu, who is well known in ISKCON as being the longest serving personal servant of Srila Prabhupada. He was Srila Prabhupada's personal servant for 2.5 years. So if you think about it, Prabhupada had a personal servant from around 1967 to 1977, about 10 years, and a quarter of that time, 2.5 years, one servant. It's quite a long period for just, one person to be the personal servant. So Shrutakirti Prabhu has some unique experience of very personally associating with Srila Prabhupada. And it's interesting to note how he actually became Srila Prabhupada's personal servant. And when this happened was in 1972, in the Vyasa Puja of Prabhupada held at New Vrindavan in West Virginia, USA. This is quite a famous Vyasa Puja festival. As far as I know, I think it's the only Vyasa Puja of Srila Prabhupada which we actually have video footage of. Not just audio recordings, video footage we have. And I encourage everyone to watch that video because it's just so blissful. It's on YouTube. If anyone wants, I can share the YouTube links. It's just an amazing festival to see. And one thing in this video, you'll see Prabhupada obviously in this video. You'll see various prominent devotees, some famous devotees you'll see. One person you won't see in the video is Shrutakirti Prabhu, who wrote this book. And there's a very significant reason why you won't see Shrutakirti Prabhu in that video, because he was cooking for everyone. So he didn't get to attend the festival. So I'm just going to read from the foreword to this book, written by His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj, just to give some insight into how Shrutakirti Prabhu became qualified to be Srila Prabhupada's servant. So at this time of the Vyasa Puja in 1972, Radhanath Swami says, "For the next 2 weeks, we were all blissfully submerged in the ocean of His divine presence, all except one humble soul. While celebrations, festivals, kirtans, and amazing lectures were relished by all, like the essence of life itself, this one devotee was a prisoner in a smoke-filled primitive kitchen, covered with black soot, choking on the smoke of burning wood. As we gazed upon his divine grace with tear-filled eyes, the young devotee toiled in the kitchen, weeping in separation as he cooked each meal for the multitude of devotees. 2 weeks passed, and he had not heard a single lecture or even seen his beloved spiritual master. Yet he carried on as the servant of the servant of the servant. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur has taught us, do not try to see Krishna, but try to serve Krishna in such a way that he is pleased to see you. Krishna himself has spoken in the Adi Purana, service to my devotees is more dear to me than service to myself. Although the simple soul was heartbroken, being so close but so far from his spiritual master, he personified this holy quality. On Srila Prabhupada's last day at New Vrindavan, the selfless soul received a message. Srila Prabhupada is departing tomorrow morning. He requests you to travel the world with him as his personal servant. So this humble service attitude of Shrudakirti Prabhu, even at the expense of not having a personal association with Srila Prabhupada, would eventually lead to him having the most intimate and personal association with Srila Prabhupada. So I just thought that's something very nice that we could learn from his personal example. Elsewhere in the book it's mentioned he was cooking for over a week for 16 hours each day for over 350 people. So you can understand why he had no time. He couldn't make it for anything else. So now we'll just get into the book itself. The book is made up of various memories with a date, and then after each memory, Shrudakirti Prabhu gives his personal meditation and realization. So the first one is giving the title of the book. It's called What is the Difficulty? From 19 July 1971 in New York. This is Shrudakirti Prabhu speaking. I moved into the Pittsburgh temple in April of 1971. In July of that year, Kirtanananda Maharaj took a few of us to the Brooklyn temple to receive first initiation. Needless to say, we were all very excited. Being Kirtanananda Maharaj's servant enabled me to be very close to Srila Prabhupada's Vyasasan during class. The day of my initiation was the first time I was able to be in the personal presence of my eternal spiritual master. It was a moment I will never forget. His effulgence was extraordinary. I stared at his every move. The kirtan was ecstatic. By the time the chanting stopped, the temperature in the temple room must have risen to at least 100 degrees. Fahrenheit, obviously. Hundreds of devotees squeezed into the temple room and tried to get as close to Srila Prabhupada as possible. After kirtan, we simultaneously bowed down to offer our obeisances. This made the room even more cramped. I started to get up before the devotee behind me and accidentally placed my posterior on his head. This startled him, and he rose very quickly, pushing me forward with great force right onto the side of Srila Prabhupada's Vyasasan. My hands and head landed directly at his right side. "What is the difficulty?" he asked me. I shrank back onto the floor, unable to say anything in response. And Shrudakirti Prabhu's meditation is, Srila Prabhupada, many times I heard you ask, what is the difficulty? Whenever you asked that question, you knew we could not answer because you mercifully removed all of the difficulty out of this process. This process is so simple, you explained. Just chant Hare Krishna and be happy. If you chant 16 rounds and follow the 4 regulative principle, then at the end of this life you will go back home, back to Godhead. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. So, Srila Prabhupada mentioned this phrase quite often, what is the difficulty or where is the difficulty? And generally, us regular people, we have lots of excuses for not practicing spiritual life or for practicing it not up to the standards that it's supposed to be. And Prabhupada always had a response, for us. And often it involved the phrase, "What is the difficulty?" So the next memory, I'll just mention a portion of it, is where he gave Shrutakirti Prabhu his name. So Shrutakirti Prabhu, what Prabhupada said is, "Shrutakirti, one whose activities are world famous." And all the devotees chanted, "Jai, Hari Bol." And he continued to look at Shrutakirti Prabhu and said, "And your name is Shrutakirti Das." He placed extra emphasis on the word Das. And this isn't the only occasion I've actually heard of this. I've actually heard several Prabhupada disciples mention this, like Sureshwar Prabhu and others, and where the devotees get so happy upon receiving such an amazing name, and then he'll be like, "And your name is Shrutakirti Das," and give them the bead, just to emphasize this point that actually they're the servant. Our position is of being the servant. So the next memory I want to share, not sharing everything, although you can read the book and get the full nectar, is where Krishna is like a sweet ball. This is from 1972, May, in Los Angeles. So this is still before the time Shrutakirti Prabhu became Prabhupada's official personal servant. These are just his encounters with Prabhupada before that, but which were leading him to that point. So Shrutakirti Prabhu mentions, "I went to New Dwarka for about 1 week with Kirtanananda Maharaj to receive Brahman initiation. Each evening at dusk, Srila Prabhupada went to his garden to hear Krishna book. A few fortunate disciples were able to join him. By Krishna's grace, I was asked to read. I spent each day in anticipation of this exhilarating activity. Seated on his asana under the arch of a vine-covered trellis, Srila Prabhupada usually kept his hand in his bead bag. Sometimes we heard him softly chant the Mahamantra. He carefully listened to Krishna book and sometimes smiled as he heard the delightful activities of Krishna and his brother Balaram. One evening, as I read the story, Deliverance of Dviveda Gorilla, Srila Prabhupada smiled broadly while hearing of the mischievous nature of Dviveda. He chuckled when I read the passage. Often he would go to the hermitages of great saintly persons and sages and cause a great disturbance by smashing their beautiful gardens and orchards. I sensed the story was going to get better, and it did. Not only did he create disturbances in that way, I continued, but sometimes he would pass urine and stool on their sacred sacrificial arena. Srila Prabhupada laughed so hard I stopped reading for a moment. Seeing his reaction, we all experienced incredible joy. He cheerfully slapped his leg. He liked hearing about Krishna and Balaram killing the demons. The next evening, when we entered the garden, I immediately sat down on the lawn and began to look for a story involving a demon. I was going through the pages for a few seconds when Srila Prabhupada stopped me, saying, "Go on, read from anywhere. Krishna is like a sweet ball. Wherever you bite, it tastes good." I joyfully went to the beginning of the next story and started reading. Staying close to Kirtanananda Maharaj, I was able to go on morning walks with Srila Prabhupada as well. Each day we waited in the hallway for Srila Prabhupada to come downstairs. Because I had been reading Krishna book in the evenings, Srila Prabhupada kindly noticed me one morning as he walked down the stairs. He looked straight into my eyes. "Oh," he said, "look at this nice young brahmachari. What is your name?" Struck with awe, I could not answer. He continued walking down the stairs. "His name is Shrutakirti, Prabhupada," Kirtanananda said. "Oh, Suta Goswami," Srila Prabhupada said, smiling. Srila Prabhupada walked out the door. I finally had a reason to live because my beloved Gurudev recognized me as the reciter of Krishna's Leela, like Sutta Goswami. Overwhelmed with the graceful glance of his divine grace, I understood that he appreciated my Krishna book reading. My dear Srila Prabhupada, after becoming your personal servant, I was able to see how appreciative you were of the service rendered by each of your disciples. You were pleased to see the seeds of devotion you planted taking root and becoming strong. You enjoyed seeing your students advance in Krishna consciousness. Many times you said, I have turned hippies into happies. As I remember your beautiful lotus feet, I feel very happy. Serving them is my only shelter. Thank you for giving me this eternal opportunity. So this is very interesting how Prabhupada recognized the service of his devotees, sometimes seemingly small service. And I think this quality Prabhupada shares with Krishna himself because one of Krishna's names is Achyuta, which is meaning infallible. And most often it's translated as infallible or one who never falls down, because the Lord never falls down. But in the Krishna book in chapter 14, Prabhupada gives another definition of Achyuta, where he says, Brahma addressed Lord Krishna as Achyuta because the Lord is never forgetful of a little service rendered by his devotee. He is so kind and affectionate toward his devotees that a little service by them is accepted by him as a great deal. So Prabhupada seemed to have this quality as well, where he really appreciated even the smallest service offered by any of the devotees, and he expanded it in that way. Like when they would tell him the book scores, he would say, he would be so pleased hearing the book scores, and then at the end he'd say, double it. So to encourage them to do more. That was Prabhupada's mood. He was so appreciative and so loving that he appreciated any small service, but he always encouraged the devotees to do more and to try and elevate themselves in some way. So I think we have about 5 minutes left. So before going on any further, I think maybe we should just have some questions or comments or reflections on anything so far that you want to share or ask. Ganga is quiet today. Okay, so if there's nothing, maybe we'll just continue then. Okay, so the next memory is from 24th May 1972. A devotee had no ambition. One afternoon, Srila Prabhupada was sitting in his garden with the parents of a young brahmachari. Having landscaped the garden for Prabhupada, they had had the good fortune to have pleased His Divine Grace. Kirtananda Maharaj and I were also present. A devotee is very proud to be Krishna's servant, Srila Prabhupada said. A devotee has that pride. We are not ashamed that we are Krishna's servants. Then, speaking directly to the parents, Srila Prabhupada said, Your son is a very nice boy and a good devotee. They were very pleased by the sweet words of His Divine Grace, but stated, The devotees do not seem very ambitious. That is right, Srila Prabhupada said. A devotee has no ambition. He simply wants to do some humble service for Krishna. He is not trying to do anything big. The devotee is not ambitious. We have no ambition. Seeing the parents' discomfort, Kirtanananda Maharaj quickly added, What Prabhupada means to say is that the devotees have no material ambition. No, Srila Prabhupada replied. We have no ambition. The devotee is not at all ambitious. We just want to serve Krishna. Srila Prabhupada always knew the exact point he was making, even if others did not. Sometimes disciples would try to interpret Srila Prabhupada's statements, thinking that cultural differences prevented his guests from understanding Srila Prabhupada. His divine grace always knew whom he was dealing with, what they meant to say, and exactly what he wanted them to understand. And Srila Prabhupada and Srila Kirti Prabhu's meditation is, there are hundreds of devotees all over the world to whom Srila Prabhupada spoke only a few sentences. They will tell you that those few words were exactly what they needed to hear, to sustain them to this day. There are some to whom he never spoke. He just glanced at them, and it was enough to keep them in Krishna consciousness. I do not know anything about my spiritual master except that he perfectly presented Krishna consciousness to us, and if one remains faithful to him and his instructions, their life will be successful. Jai Srila Prabhupada. So I thought that was interesting, that a devotee has no ambition, not even material ambition. The devotee is not ambitious. We're just trying to humbly serve Krishna. Then the next and probably the last one that will fit in today, the next memory is from 1972, 25th May, also in Los Angeles. While in New Dwarka, Srila Prabhupada liked to take his morning walk on the beach. Included in the group one morning were Kirtanananda Swami, Kuladri, a young bhakta about 17 years old, and myself. During the walk, the bhakta spotted a large sand crab scurrying along the sand. He stopped to watch it, while the rest of us walked with Srila Prabhupada. The ever-observant Srila Prabhupada said, "This boy is too much attached to material things. This little neglect will snowball. Everything comes, first little things and then big things." The walk continued, with the boy catching up to the rest of us after a minute. No one brought up the incident to the young bhakta. When we arrived back in New Vrindavan a week later, the boy left the temple and was not seen again, as Srila Prabhupada predicted. And then Srila Kirti Prabhu's meditation is, Srila Prabhupada, please stamp my forehead with the words, "Keep at the lotus feet of Jagat Guru." Without your direction, I may also end up walking with crabs. So this I found quite instructive, because quite heavy, I thought, personally, because I'm the sort of person that I could easily stop and look at a few crabs or, notice something interesting in this world. But Prabhupada is just showing how single-focused and determined and single-pointed our determination must be in spiritual life. Otherwise, we can easily be swayed by small things at first and then big things come later on to divert our attention from spiritual life. So, we got 1 minute left and I heard the bell, so I think we'll stop there and observe the Gora Arati now. Thank you, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Kirti Prabhu ki jai. Shri Radharadhanath ki jai. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai. Shri Giriraj Govardhan ki jai.